I am Brad Keelor. He is Brock Berry. Coming up on our special summer Director's Cut edition, the most succinct job description in the history of the show. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Director's Cut. My name is Brad Keelor. I'm the director of the Geo-Institute, and that is why we call this show Director's Cut. Every single week, except during the summer and 1 week at the holidays, I sit down with a different GI member who has stories to tell. Some of them are personal, some are professional, but every single one of them is fun. If you don't know anything about the Geo-Institute, after you watch this today, you should head over to geoinstitute.org, and there you will find out that we are a technical society with about 12,000 members, most of whom are geotechnical engineers and or geologists, and we are part of the American Society of Civil Engineers. If you like what you see today, I mean, how could you not? I'm wearing the hat. We got Hawaiian shirts on. It's going to be good. You should click like, subscribe, get notifications, and we will let you know every time we post something to the YouTube channel. Now, as I mentioned, there are Hawaiian shirts being worn. There is a hibiscus blooming in the background. I'm outside the palatial Keelor Estate in Northern Virginia, not indoors. I got my sun tea ready to go. I have a parrot beanie baby. There are bugs out here. It's super authentic. On the other end of the line, coming to us from West Point, New York, where he is Division Director of Civil Engineering at the United States Military Academy, aka West Point. It is Brock Berry. Brock, thank you for wearing your summer finery and for doing this.
Yep, happy to be here, Brad. And I'll point out, so my Hawaiian shirt, a little bit unique. It's got tanks and airplanes and helicopters on it. So fits in with the theme that you proposed today, as well as keeps me somewhat appropriate to my surroundings.
And if anybody needs to, we do, of course, record Director's Cut in beautiful high definition. So you can full screen that and find those tanks on there if you are so inclined. We have 10 questions for Brock, the same way that we do every week. 2 of them are the same. We got a couple of summer ones mixed in here too. And we start with one of those 2 that's the same. Describe your job in 45 seconds.
All right, pretty easy for me to describe my job. My job is to develop leaders of character, period. It's that simple. So the mission of the United States Military Academy is to develop leaders of character. Those are second lieutenants that graduate with a commission, meaning they're an officer in the U.S. Army, and they also obtain a degree. In the case of what I do uniquely, that I develop leaders of character, I develop leaders of character through civil engineering. So everybody kind of fills in the blank here. We all say, my job is to develop leaders of character. And then how do you do that? So I do that through inspiring civil engineering education that's happening in my classrooms on a daily basis. So that is really, in a nutshell, my real quick job description.
Beautiful. We promised it would be the most succinct, but you covered it all beautifully. So that's fantastic. And we're going to talk a little bit more about your job at West Point as we go through the interview. We have to get to the fun questions, though, as we always do, and we get right into those next. What one word strikes the most fear in your heart?
All right, so I'm gonna violate one of your rules. I'm gonna give you a term, or rather one word. It's gonna be 2 words. The expression is cease work. Cease work is the command we use when our students, our cadets, are taking examinations and they've reached the end of their time, and we have to tell them you have to stop. We have to use that exact term. It's cease work. Now, why does that strike fear into my heart? Because I teach at an undergraduate university. I do not have teaching assistants, research assistantships. I don't have grad students that do my grading for me. I get to do all the grading. So while it may also strike fear in the hearts of my cadets when I say cease work, as in you're out of time, sorry, it also strikes fear in me because now I'm thinking, oh boy, what do I get to do for the next 6, 8, 10, 12 hours? I get to grade. So I'd say that's the one thing that, students are always in my classroom are always like, oh, I hate that term. I was like, I bet I hate it even more, right? So, the bane of the existence of anybody in academics is the idea of grading. We love our jobs. We love to educate. We love to inspire. But at the end of the day, grading has to be done because we have to do assessment. And you want to make sure you're assessing well, and then you're providing positive feedback in the grading process. That takes time. So that's the one thing that arguably strikes fear in my heart is cease work.
How much do you think that plays into the psychology of the cadets, then the students as exam takers? Because I figured out pretty early on in college that if I asked to take an exam early or something by myself, I was going to get a lot more time than I might have had if I did it as part of the exam period. I'm guessing these kids don't have that option.
Yeah.
So, do you think it affects the way they approach exams and the way they take them?
Certainly does. Equality is awfully important, right? So we want to make sure everybody gets the same opportunities, the same experiences, and that includes how much time do you get for a particular examination. That is established in advance. So if I do have a student that might be competing in a sporting event and cannot make the regularly scheduled examination time, he or she is going to either make it up or make ahead as far as that, but they're going to get the exact same amount of time that everybody else does. They know that coming in exactly how much time is going to be allotted. And I do believe they prepare accordingly. They recognize, hey, that's going to be a 75-minute long examination. I need to put in 2, 3, 4 times that amount of time just to study or to prepare for that. And they come in, it's almost like they're going to battle. You will see the game face. You see them, they're all serious. We tend to play a lot of music in our classrooms, to start a class. I've got walk-on music for them when they come into an examination. It's all about fire up. It's the same stuff you're going to hear at before a football game or when somebody's walking up to home plate to take a swing in during baseball. Everybody's got their walk-on music. I play walk-on music to get them excited, to get that adrenaline up, because I want them to be able to go into battle with whatever examination I produced.
Oh, that's amazing. That speaks right to me as the guy who makes a playlist for every conference that we run and has a different song at the beginning of every director's cut. That is fantastic.
Yep.
The third question is always the research question. Yours is a little bit different because you are at a place where, you've got two things working for you that are different. You're at a service academy and it's an undergrad institution. Your research experience is a little bit different. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, certainly. So we are strictly an undergraduate university. I've got 100% job placement at the end of year 4, right? Everybody ends up in the U.S. Army. So there is not typically a year 5 or 6 type of option. And again, we don't have grad students that we can utilize. We do research, right? So I have a research expectation. It's going to be completely different than what you might expect at an R1 or a classic research type of university. As an undergraduate university, a lot of our research tends to be more on the applied side and tends to very commonly be focused on the process of teaching and learning, right? So if I want to do research in geotechnical engineering, what I really want to discover is, hey, I want to implement some sort of new type of process in my classroom that might help them better understand Moore's circle. I'm going to actually develop that. I'm going to study that, and I'm going to likely publish on that. So we tend to do a lot of education-based research, which is great. I enjoy doing that. That's in fact where some of my background comes from. But for me, when I think in terms of research, it's all about producing folks that are highly qualified, highly able to make decisions in the field. And that's what my graduates do. So I'm producing these young officers that are going out and they're going to be in a deployed environment, and they've got to make decisions on, hey, I need to move a group of tanks from one side of a field to the other. Who here's taken a course in geotechnical engineering that could take a look at these soils real quick and decide, can we safely maneuver these tanks from point A to point B, or are they going to get bogged down and we're going to be putting ourselves at risk type of thing? So I need soldiers, I need now my cadets to be educated in field level type of research. I want them to be truly prepared to do that. And because I knew you were going to ask the question, I dug out one of my favorite books. So this is Goodman's biography of Carl Terzaghi. And I love the book. It's marked up, but I only have one bookmark in here. And the bookmark actually refers to one real quick comment that I'm gonna risk doing a little bit of karaoke for you here. I'm gonna read it to you. So it says, in soil mechanics, the accuracy of computed results never exceeds that of a crude estimate. And the principal function of theory consists in teaching us what and how to observe in the field. That's a quote directly from Carl Terzaghi, and it's one that I rely on frequently. I talk about it with my students of, hey, what is my job? What is my intent is to make sure that you are prepared to make those decisions, educated decisions in the field. And so accordingly, my research tends to focus on making sure that my cadets are truly researched and prepared to make those theory-based decisions in the field.
Fantastic answer. And we are not above commercials on Director's Cut. We will note that book is published by ASCE, Carl Terzaghi, the engineer as artist, and we will put a link to it down in the show notes. I think a lot of people probably have that on their shelves already. But if we reach one more person, then it's really
in terms of your summer theme today, this is excellent beach reading right here. This absolutely.
I would say that's the first time in history that anybody's said that, but actually ASCE promotes that every year at the beginning of the summer. Good for them. And we do call it the summer of soil for good reason. Sand is soil after all. It is. Back into the fun stuff. Well, I don't know that this is fun, but it's interesting maybe. Never asked this one, so I had to put it in here. What's connected to your computer right now in terms of peripherals?
Yeah, so right now, because I'm not in my backyard, I am in my office. And when I'm in my office, multitask is the key word. So connected to my laptop, I've got two big screens set up behind my laptop here, which allow me to probably have 3 or 4 things going on at one time. I also have an iPad set up off to the side because not everything I do is Windows based. I've got an iPad running. I've got a charger for the phone. I've got a charger for my earbuds, and I've got a charger for my sports watch. So, one of the things that I'm into is physical fitness. It's part of our culture here. And commonly about this time of the day, I grab a gym bag, I grab my watch, and I grab my earbuds, and I'm heading over to the gym for an hour or so, just to help me, maintain that physical fitness, but also helps clear my mind. I come back in the afternoon and I get a whole lot more work done just by taking an hour off in the middle of the day. So a lot of those things that are connected to my computer right now just enable me to go do other things when I'm powering down and taking time for my own self.
Clearly, also, you are not in the classic DoD secure environment if you're able to have those. Yeah. As somebody who spent many years cordoned off and having to put my phone in a box at the entrance to the office.
Right. Yeah. So thankfully, yes. So we do have certain restrictions on what can be connected. But by the same token, I do not work in a quote secure environment, which is a nice luxury.
That's great. So we just keep on going with these West Point questions here. And I wanted to put this one in here too. And it's specifically about what's different about being there at a service academy. What opportunity do you think you've had at West Point that you wouldn't have had in another teaching or academic position?
Yeah, absolutely. Occasionally you get so wrapped up in your work and your job, and I need to stop every now and then and remind myself, I am working at a pretty unique location, right? I could have had opportunities to go and teach at a variety of different universities. I chose to go teach at a military academy. That was important to me. I do love the mission. I love the idea that I am contributing to the mission of the United States Army. I'm considered to be a United States Army civilian. So I do want to clarify for those that may not recognize, the vast majority of the faculty that work with me and for me are uniformed officers, captains, majors, lieutenant colonels, and colonels. I report directly to a 1-star general, but I'm a civilian. So I'm here in what's considered to be a permanent position, as opposed to the majority of the military folks. They rotate in, they rotate out. That gives us great diversity of perspective. It's constantly changing. You get a lot of new energy that comes in the door every year. But the civilians are here, like myself, to provide that continuity. As far as what, things that I uniquely get to do, just being immersed in the military culture is pretty awesome. Every now and then it's like, oh, hey, do you want to go? I have a license to drive a Humvee, right? So a lot of people, you can go buy a Humvee, but not a military Humvee. You have to have a special license to be able to run one of those. the other day I had the opportunity to take a group of my new faculty up in a military helicopter and go do a sightseeing tour of New York City. Now that's kind of unique in and of itself. I've got access to helicopters and pilots that need to get hours in, so they're always looking for somebody to take up in a flight. I'm just like, hey, I got a group of new faculty. I'd like to get them up there. The cool thing is when you fly in and around the Statue of Liberty and it says U.S. Army on the side, you get to go within the perimeter that everybody else does. So you're really getting up close and personal with the Statue of Liberty. Those type of things, certainly you're not going to get those every day. But I think perhaps the single thing that is so unique here happens to be the students as well as my coworkers. So my coworkers, the vast majority of them have been in multiple deployments in war zones. And I'll tell you what, you meet them and you immediately have respect for them, but knowing the background, and these are humble warriors. These are highly educated individuals that happen to work for the U.S. Army and wear a uniform to do that. It's pretty powerful to stop every now and then and remind myself, man, I've got some pretty amazing coworkers. And then the students in my classrooms, so the cadets in my classrooms, are pretty unique young men and women. Vast majority of them could have easily gone on to any of the Ivy League schools. Their academic chops were sufficient to get them into those places. But those students, those young men and women in my class, have made a choice. And it's a choice that they don't come to easily, but it's a choice they made that they want to support and defend the Constitution of the United States by serving their country. And I'll tell you what, I get up every morning. I'm just excited to get a chance to go into a classroom to teach those young men and women because they deserve the absolute best, right? Because of the decisions they've made, they deserve what I deliver every day has better be my A game because they really deserve that A game. So I think that's probably the one thing that's particularly unique about teaching at a military academy.
With your Humvee license, though, do you ever wish that maybe you'd chosen Air Force Academy so that you had a little more exciting terrain out there?
I've got wonderful colleagues at the U.S. Air Force Academy and have nothing but the greatest respect for them. There are some rivalries that exist between the different military academies. The reality is there's no civil engineering program at the U.S. Naval Academy. That's our bigger rival across the board, but. No,
it's not super fun to drive a Humvee down here either, though. So,
yeah, and I'll tell you what, Air Force Academy is in a beautiful location. Colorado Springs is an absolutely gorgeous location along the Front Range of the Rocky Mountains there. I'm jealous of that, but I also love the area where I live right around here too. So, again, great colleagues, great friends out at the Air Force Academy. Not jealous. They're probably not going to give me the keys to a B-2 bomber.
The other question that we ask everybody when they come on Director's Cut is, how did you first get involved in ASCE and GI?
Yeah, that's a great one, and hopefully an inspiring message that people really should be involved and find ways to give back to this professional organization. I joined ASCE as a student member as a freshman in 1991. I started my first interaction with the Geo-Institute was in 2004. I'd spent a year in South America working on a project, and when I came back, one of my coworkers and I decided to write up a paper, and we submitted it to the 2004 Geo Support Conference, which was, I believe, in Orlando that year. And I had the really unique opportunity to go and make my first professional presentation in front of a group of colleagues. And I just found that the group that I interacted with, I was like, wow, these folks are crazy. They're equally crazy as I am when it comes to talking about soil, right? It was just like, it felt like a good family, a good team to be around with the Geo-Institute. I've subsequently presented a couple other papers in GI related conferences, but more importantly, I think at the ASCE level, I found many opportunities to give back. So I don't know if you're aware or not, but I had an opportunity a couple of years ago to serve as the chair of the committee that wrote the new code of ethics for ASCE. And I'll tell you, that was a 48-month experience that resulted in what I believe is a very usable, very well written, very concise new code of ethics. Very, very powerful opportunity to shape the future of my profession. And what, find another organization that gives you those type of opportunities to say, hey, we need help with this. Other places I've gotten involved with are with helping to write the ASCE civil engineering body of knowledge. And these are formative experiences, writing a code of ethics or writing the body of knowledge for your profession. Those are pretty amazing opportunities. So for me, I jump at any opportunity whenever I can to give back to GI or to give back to ASCE directly. It's been great and very rewarding opportunities to do so.
And I'll give you guys a little bit of a shout out here too. I would say about the code of ethics that it's also nicely modernized. ASCE was founded in 1852. It's very easy for things to become a little bit arcane and out of date, not get updated for a long time, or just fall victim to inertia where big changes aren't made over long periods of time. I feel like the code of ethics is very appropriate for where we are right now in 2023 as a profession.
And it should be considered a living document, right? So your fundamental, your governing documents, your mission, and then your code of ethics really should always be considered to be a living document that's always open for change. Our profession is not stagnant. Geotechnical engineering is not stagnant. So we should always have documents that help govern us that truly continue to evolve as our profession evolves.
That's great. We have 4 more questions. We're in the back half of the interview. This is a question I have never asked on the show. And, this time of year, end of the school year, got me thinking about things I had to say when I was filling out my college applications those many years ago. And one of the questions I had to answer was the best gift that I had ever received. And so I thought, I'm going to ask Brock, in your opinion, what is the best gift that you have ever given?
Oh. That's a tough one. I was prepared for the best gift ever that I've ever received. So
we can go with that.
What I've ever given. Hopefully, I'm going to twist it around. I was going to use basically the same answer regardless. It starts to get to the personal side of the reality is, I've got an amazing job and we've talked about that. I get to do some pretty incredible things. We've talked about that, but that's only part of my life. The perhaps the most important part of my life is my family. And I would say the most important gift I've ever received was the gift of my family. I've been married to my wife coming up on 22 years. We've got 2 wonderful teenage boys. So you could argue that maybe the gift I've given, hopefully, was my boys to my wife. Some days I'm sure we both would agree that maybe that's a gift we wish we kept the receipt for. But the truth is, I think the opportunity to be a parent, and it's not that I had the unique opportunity to give that to my wife. I know that's a joint effort, but the opportunity to make her to give her the chance to most recently celebrate her as a mother, I think that in itself is an amazing gift. We tend to get so wrapped up in our jobs and feel like upward mobility is the way that we help our families. But at the end of the day, you need to do a great job, but then also go home and be a great parent, be a great husband, be a great father. And I would argue that's the best gift you can ever give to anybody is don't just be a dad, but be a great father along the way. And you're going to end up with great kids as a product. And I can definitely confidently say I've got 2 great kids and I got a great wife at home.
Amazing answer. It's fantastic. We go back to West Point one final time in the interview here. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess they could all be about West Point technically if you wanted them to be. What are a few of your favorite traditions to share with everybody?
So this is a place that is steep in tradition. So much of the things that happen around here, right down to the uniforms that cadets wear, and you can trace back the history and the lineage on that. The terms like cease work that we mentioned earlier. So everything's got its own unique vocabulary associated with it. But there is one thing that when you talk about traditions at the U.S. Military Academy, it's the tradition that we want to beat Navy in everything we do, right? So every time we sing the alma mater, at the end of it, there's a cheer that goes up, beat Navy. Beat Navy at what? Beat Navy at everything, right? And this, most importantly, perhaps you could argue it's on the fields of friendly strife. Yeah. It's in football, right? So that becomes the single largest game of the year. If you're a fan of college football, you know that that second weekend in December, there's only one football game that gets played. It's the only one that's on TV. and it's the Army-Navy football game. And the sad reality is a lot of America doesn't have any idea. They assume that those are actually Army soldiers and Navy sailors that are out there, playing football. Who's paying for this? No, those are students. Those are cadets and midshipmen that have responsibilities on the academic side that also happen to play for an NCAA Division I football team. And I've got several of those in my classes taking civil engineering courses. So huge credit and kudos to those that are able to balance, a heavy academic load and being on a football team. But there's nothing like Army-Navy football. And I have to explain why. So, I have my PhD from Purdue University. And at Purdue, the big in-state rival is Indiana University, yeah. IU, Purdue versus IU. And those are big rivalries, but that rivalry was not ever based on respect, unfortunately. The Army-Navy rivalry is based on respect between those two teams and between those two historic institutions. It is amazing to me to go to that football game, and I try to go just about every year. I think maybe I've missed one year along the way. And the experience, you're going to go, you're going to get your ticket, you're going to sit down, and there's somebody from Navy sitting right next to you. And if that were Purdue IU, we would have words, right? We would say, we'd get in each other's face. There'd be arguments. There'd be my team's better than your team. There is that element to it in Army Navy, but at the end of the day, we shake hands and we are on the same team. And I think it's a respectful rivalry that I've never seen anywhere else. So to me, it's amazing when if you watch that football game, those gentlemen are out there just pounding heads for 4 quarters. As soon as that game's over, you will see them shaking hands and hugging each other. It's an emotional event. They go and sing each other's alma mater in front of the student sections. And because they know it after that game, as soon as that is over, they're on the same team. At the end of that game, they're one team. It's called the United States Military. And that's pretty impressive. And that is a tradition that I'm proud to be part of it. I don't put on a football uniform, but everybody who's affiliated with those two different military academies, when that game's over, we're all on the same team.
That's a fantastic answer. I love that. Now, we're about 45 minutes away from the Naval Academy. A lot of family connections, Navy, a lot of friends that are connected. Our church, our parish is even like a training ground for Navy chaplains.
Sure.
We're always rooting for the mids. Even when they have a tough time tackling like they have the last couple of years, and it's been those 3-9 seasons. But you're right. The only game that matters is December 10th or whatever Saturday it happens there. That was a fantastic answer. I love that. Wish they'd have a hockey team, though. They're the only service academy without a hockey team, but that's a completely different discussion. We're going to close with a couple of summer questions here.
Right on.
And I mean, I would approach this one seriously. On the surface, it looks like a fun question. But we're looking for a real hardcore response here. Cold salads, like macaroni, potato, and coleslaw, friend or foe?
All right. Well, very, very upfront, I'll say I'm a friend of the cold salads. I'm glad you didn't say garden salads were not included there. I'm really bad when it comes to my greens. I've made a claim that my diet does not include anything green in color. And that's probably just not a good way to live, but I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy. But it never hurts to have a nice macaroni salad or potato salad off to the side there. I will say the favorite salad is something called a Waldorf salad. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
Oh, yeah.
So this is actually comes from the famous Waldorf Hotel. And in my household growing up, my mom would make an amazing Waldorf salad, but it was twice a year. You got it on Christmas and you got it on Thanksgiving. And I look forward to that every year because it was fantastic. So if you're not familiar with it, go Google it. Waldorf, as in the hotel. Waldorf salad was something kind of really unique. And I loved it. And it was partly because you didn't get it every day. You're not likely going to walk into many restaurants and find that on the menu.
So what ingredient in the Waldorf salad made it for you? Was there any part of it that you really looked forward to?
It's the combination. It's a unique combination. It's got typically has grapes. It's got raisins. It's got walnuts. It's got apples. And then it's in a mayonnaise-based cream sauce. Boy, what is it? I'm a big apple fan, so probably it's those chunks of apples. You get a big scoop of that, and you bring that in. The mixture of those items, you're just like off the top of your head, like, wow, I never thought of putting those together. Boy, you get that together, and it's got a fantastic taste to it. But it's usually just that crisp apple that just sets it off.
And that, for me, I had totally forgotten this, but my grandma Keelor would make that a lot during the summer. And, we'd be sitting out at the picnic table by the driveway, eating drumsticks off the grill and Waldorf salad. So maybe I'm going to have to give that a shot this summer now. And the final one that we like to ask everybody when we get around to this time of year, what's your favorite summer memory of all time?
Yeah. So lots of great summer memories. I grew up on a lake. So literally spent most of my summer, in a canoe and a sailboat, getting towed around the lake, water skiing or tubing or whatever it was, and had great memories at scout camp and church camp, that type of thing. But I'd say my favorite memory, if there was one, I was going to close my eyes and be like, all right, give me that picture of what was that perfect summer memory. This goes back probably 10, even 12 years ago when my now teenage boys were much younger, and my wife and I had taken them on a summer trip up to Vermont. And I remember we went to this big farm that I'm sure had lots of opportunities for them to pet the animals and all that type of thing. And I just remember the two of them walking, they were not old enough to be independent, but they were looking for those opportunities to be independent. And the two of them were walking, holding hands with each other. And again, they were probably 4 and 7 at the time. The two of them, and they were walking a good 20, 30 yards ahead of my wife. And I remember the two of us just stopping and watching the two of them kind of walk away from us, type of thing. And it was just like, wow, someday they're going to really walk away from you. And I think that picture will always be emblazoned in my head.
Oh, that's really good. We're going to get a bonus question here. We're not ready for the Director's Cut summer break just yet. A lot of questions don't make the cut for Director's Cut. They get put off to other episodes or they never get asked. One of the ones that was a throwaway from yours was that I was going to ask you about your favorite hat. Lo and behold, we get to record here and you've got a shelf full of hats behind you. Yeah. And one of them is what looks like a Viking helmet. You called it a barbarian helmet. Please tell everybody the story of the barbarian helmet. Oh, he's going to go get it. This is what makes Director's Cut, everybody.
All right. So you're right. So this is a barbarian helmet. So on the shelf is a lot of memories and a lot of things that I actually, this doesn't have any dust on it, right? So this gets worn every now and then. So why do I have that helmet or that hat amongst others? So one of the courses I do commonly get to teach is a strength of materials course, where we do introduce them of strengths of various properties of materials such as steel. And on the day that I'm introducing the concept of steel, we talk about the stress strain profile of a steel material and how that changes with carbon content and so on. But one of the things we are talking about is how you can change the strength properties of steel by hammering it, by cold quenching it, that type of thing. And you could talk about that. I could just stand there and talk about it, and hopefully I can make it interesting. Or when the students walk into my classroom, I could have this thing on my head. I could have my face painted up with all kinds of warrior paint, and I could have on this entire barbarian costume. And that costume is going to be perfectly situated because as students walk into my room, what's playing up on the screen? But the first 5 minutes, it's critical. You only go about the first 5 minutes, but the first 5 minutes of the original version of Conan the Barbarian, because the intro, the monologue of there talks about the importance of steel and to the barbarian. And they actually show an individual hammering a sword to improve its mechanical properties. And they thrust it into a bucket of water to quench it. And we talk about in the classroom. So why was that individual, why were they hammering that sword? How did it change the properties? And then why did he put it into a bucket of water? How did that change the properties? Again, you can teach those concepts, or you can really teach those concepts. What are they going to remember that? Are they going to remember exactly what was the value of hammering steel? Maybe not, but they're going to remember that day. They're going to know there was something special about it. So why the unique things up there? A lot of them have to do with just days going into a classroom. And if you've got a chance to put on a costume, do it.
That is amazing. And I always say that that's, a lot of things that happen on Director's Cut. It's the first time they've ever happened in ASCE history. And I feel like maybe we have a good shot that that's the first time there's ever been a Conan the Barbarian reference on any official ASCE media property. So, Brock, you made it through all 10 questions, plus the bonus question. You did an amazing job. Fantastic answers, very thoughtful. They tied together. This is a great episode of Director's Cut. For our viewers, if you liked what you saw and you're here at the end, so you probably did, of course, click like, subscribe, get notifications, and we will let you know every last time we post something to the YouTube channel. With this, Director's Cut is on summer break until Labor Day. Of course, during the summer, you take your phone, take your computer, your iPad, maybe, wherever you are, and you can catch up on all the things we post on that YouTube channel, the blogs on the website. We've got a lot of content for your summer, believe me. So, Brock, thanks again for doing this.
My pleasure.
It was a lot of fun. And for all of our viewers, again, we will see you in September with brand new episodes of Director's Cut.